There was a lot there from Justin Fields, but it was another game with no turnovers. He had some spectacular plays. He had some frustrating moments. What was your overall takeaways before we get into a few specifics?
Uh, well, I mean, I think you're seeing kind of the same stuff that we've seen from Justin. Is that he's an unbelievable playmaker. When he sees it and he knows where he wants to go, or when he's out creating, um, he makes all kinds of really special big time plays. I think the biggest thing continues to be you still want him to kind of see it faster, kind of be able to decipher what's going on the field or pre-snap or right at the snap, and be able to get through some of the things a little bit faster. But we're seeing, all the great stuff that is Justin Fields, and you see it on display almost every week in different ways. It's just, again, for me, putting it all together. So it's not just good when he's out creating, but it's good all the time.
Man, it's well said, because yesterday felt like the full experience. It wasn't necessarily new information, but it was like, oh man, so few people can do that. But then you're like, well, a lot of people seem to be able to do that he struggles with. Help us with this zoom out, because we just talked about this a few minutes ago. Even the great quarterbacks who are more consistently productive, your Josh Allens, your Pat Mahomes, they make bad plays too, right? Like, are we being unrealistic with our ask of Justin Fields as a pocket passer at this point?
Well, I mean, I don't know what you mean by unrealistic. I think the bottom line, and I tweeted it out last week, is that every time I put on the tape, that the best performances every week are the ones that start by making the plays they're supposed to make inside the pocket, reading things, getting it out to the right guy, not holding it and not trying to create all the time. And you mentioned a couple guys like Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes. And those are two guys that I don't believe are playing their best football right now. And a big part of it is because they're not hitting the stuff on time. They're getting impatient in the pocket, and they're starting to move and try to create all the time instead of just playing football. And it hurts them time and time and time again, because I know they're capable of it. To me, the best quarterbacks are the ones that make those layups, and then they give you the special on top of it. They don't try to live in the special, because it's nearly impossible. Because, when you're running around making plays, one of them's going to be a 15-yard sack. One of them's going to be, a bad throw because you're on the move trying to run and make a throw when you had a guy wide open in front of you. And so, that's what I continue to see. When Patrick and Josh are at their best is when they're playing on schedule, getting the ball out of their hands, and then when something crazy happens, they make a special play. And when you look at Justin, that's kind of what I want to see. I want to see him make more of the layups, because I know he can make the special. But you guys have seen it. We've seen games where he's made a lot of special plays. They don't win those games, because that world is tough to live in against good teams week in and week out. If you're not getting, turnovers from your defense, or the other team's not playing well, those kinds of things, you've got to be able to play the game first and foremost and make it easier on yourself. I think that's, kind of at the end of the day, that's kind of the statement. You've got to be able to make the game easier as a quarterback instead of making it harder all the time by trying to make those big plays and hope that you can make enough in every game to win. Let the game work for you. Let your playmakers work for you. Let the play, the design of the play work for you. If it's there in front of you, have to be able to take it and complete it, and then do whatever you're capable of doing beyond that.
Talking to Kurt Warner, we saw Justin Fields have a touchdown to DJ Moore on a free play that was baffling, that the Lions jumped off sides on. What should we extrapolate from that in terms of Justin Fields' mastery of the game, seeing the game? Like, should we draw conclusions from that Aaron Rodgers type of play from Justin Fields?
I think you always draw conclusions from things that, young quarterbacks, as they're growing, things that they start to do and recognize and see. Sometimes, I'll watch tape, and there's times where maybe the structure of a defense says, oh, I should probably read it here. But based on like spacing or based on one guy messing up or based on just kind of the feel of the game, you go somewhere else. And those are things that, it's easy to kind of talk about it on a board. And there's another thing about feeling the game and feeling what's going on around you. And I think that's kind of the same thing that you're talking about here is game's going fast and I'm just playing. Well, when you can kind of see stuff like that, I mean, there'll be times that I'll watch Patrick Mahomes where he believes he got somebody offsides and he snaps the ball and he looks over at the official to see if the official's throwing the flag. And when he does, now he drops back and he wings it up and goes, I know I got a free play. I mean, that's the kind of like, again, that's next level that you're not going to turn over and look at the official all the time. But to see guys that have that, kind of, understanding of what's going on and kind of that presence in that moment. So anytime you see a quarterback do that and understand that and make a play off of it, that lets you know, okay, they're recognizing things that maybe they didn't recognize, a year or two ago.
Kurt, I want to ask you about Justin's setup and his throw. Does it look to you as if his base is a little wider than some? I heard Henry Burris, the former Bears quarterback, talking about that he's just a little wider, so it takes a little longer than some other quarterbacks to decide to throw, get in position, and then deliver the ball. Do you see that, or is that overstated to say that it takes a little longer?
Did you ask a follow-up question? Why does a wider base make you slower to throw? Now, again, I'm throwing stuff out there because you hear a lot of people talk and you got to understand, okay, tell me why that is. Why does a wider base make you slower to throw? Here's the bottom line is that
I think the inference I think is that if your feet are closer together because you happen to be standing there, you have to then get into your wider base to make the throw. Like that in itself is a delay, I think is the idea.
Okay. Well, that's not a thing. In my opinion. So what I'm saying is that when I get a football in my hands, when somebody just tosses me a football, I go into my throwing position. And what is that throwing position? That throwing position is a base, my base to throw it. So whatever that is, just a little wider than shoulder width apart. Okay. And so I'm going to live in that world. And then to throw it, all I'm going to do is lead with my back foot. And my front foot could go 2 inches, 3 inches, but I'm creating my torque and my power and my throw from everywhere else and through my core and stuff. So it's not about my feet being close together and then me having to extend to become into whatever throwing posture I have. We want to have as little movement as possible as a quarterback. So a wide base, to me, if you're comfortable and can create the power you need with a wide base, then to me, I'd rather have a wider base than a tighter base, because a tighter base, just like you're talking about, a tighter base, my front foot has to move further for me to get into that position I want to be in to throw. I don't want that much movement. If I can eliminate as much movement as I can as a quarterback, I'm always in a better spot. Now, with that being said, we can get in too wide of a base. And if we get in too wide of a base, then our weight is distributed more balanced between both feet. So you got to follow me here. It's a little more technical. I want my weight loaded on the inside of my back foot because I want to create all my power going forward. The wider we get with a base, the more we can get evenly balanced between both feet. And now I can't create as much torque. But that doesn't seem to be an issue for Justin, that he creates enough torque. He creates enough power with his throw. So I don't worry about a wide base at all. To me, it's how quick can you get it out? And a lot of that, when I look at Justin, is not based on his base. It's more based on decision-making. Like, when do you see it? That's the first part. The sooner you see it, the sooner you get into your throw. And he's got a little bit longer of a delivery where he'll drop the ball a little bit, and it takes a little bit of time to get out. And so that, to me, is more of my technical concern with Justin than a wide base. A wide base, to me, is not really a thing unless you're way too wide. And I don't see that being the case with Justin, affecting his ability to create, the power that he needs to throw it.
All right, well,
sorry, long-winded answer. There's a whole bunch that goes into playing quarterback. But again, you got to answer the why when somebody makes statements like that. And I'd rather have him wide and move 2 inches to throw than be tight and have to move 12 inches before he can throw. Because, again, you were talking about time, right? Time is about less movement. How little movement can I make to still create the same throw? Go watch C.J. Stroud play. Because if you're going to talk about a wide base, I bet a lot of people would say, well, C.J.'s got a wide base. He is so efficient and gets the ball out so quickly, and it's all because he's in that throwing position from the start, and he doesn't have to go anywhere. He doesn't have to create any movement to get the ball out of his hands. That's what we want as a quarterback, and that, to me, is how you get the ball out quick, and how you're efficient is you eliminate as much movement as possible.
That was good stuff.
And he
Screw
mentioned
Henry Burris.
Yeah,
I'm just kidding.
Yeah. But it's like,
I'm just kidding.
It's the decision making. He got there. We learned a lot from that answer. That it's the decision making at the beginning.
Because both of those things
that.
can be like obviously a wind up or a throwing motion that can be tightened and shortened. Can the decision making vision when he sees it, is that you got it or you don't, or can that be learned, Kurt?
That's a hard one to answer,
Okay.
right? All I can tell you is what I could do. I've even got a son that plays quarterback, and I try to teach him some of these things that I'm talking about, and the decision making and what to look at and all of that stuff, and even the technical part of it, how you want to generate your power. And he's always looking back, when we would work together, and he's always like, "Okay, Dad, what'd I do wrong there?" Or "How was that?" And it's like, I can't answer those questions for you because I can't feel where you generate the power in your body. I can't tell you when you saw whatever you needed to see and when you decided it was time to throw. I can't tell you those things. Those are things that, guys have to figure out on their own.
Right.
But, when we're talking about that, right, because I've talked about different guys over the years. So if we talk about a C.J. Stroud who is compact and he's ready to throw at, as much as anybody in the league, and he sees it and the ball's out quick and efficiently, that's how you develop that timing. If it takes a guy a little bit longer to see that, okay, so now it's going to take them a little bit longer once their receiver gets to a certain point. So a window is going to shrink a little bit. Not only that, but what about if they see it, but then their delivery is slower than somebody who has a quick, efficient delivery?
Mm-hmm.
Now, once again, it's going to get there later. Windows are going to close. And so it's almost as if you have a slower delivery, you've got to anticipate even more than someone that has a quick delivery.
Of course.
But when you start to stack those things on top of each other, that's where the problem arises for guys that don't necessarily see it and anticipate great and have a little slower delivery. How do they make up for it? Now, some guys can do it because they have more power, more velocity on their throw, so they can make up for it. But, you don't want to have to put extra velocity on a throw because it makes it harder for a guy to adjust. It makes it harder, to be able to
catch it,
to layer the football and stuff. So there's just so many elements that go into it. But the answer to your question, I don't know if you can teach anticipation and guys to, I have to believe you can teach guys to know what to look at. But there's so many different elements. Again, we go into some depth on here that I love. But so like when you're reading a defender, sometimes you have to read, a lot of times you're going to read his position, right? Is he outside this guy? Is he inside this guy? Blah, blah, blah.
Right.
So you're feeling his position. But a lot of times as a quarterback, you also have to read body language. So, for instance, let's assume I'm – okay, yeah, kind of stay with me here. We got a route where we've got a deep corner route that's going out towards the sideline, and we've got a flat route underneath it, okay? So we're going to high-low a defender that's over there. There's a corner over there, and we're going to high-low him, okay? So first thing that I'm looking at is like the depth of that guy. Okay, if the depth of that guy is 10 yards deep, well, I know that it's going to be hard to throw the corner over the top of him, and I'll probably throw the flat. If the guy's at 5 yards, now I have to start looking at little details. So let's say I'm looking at him and I see his numbers. So in other words, his body is perpendicular to the line of scrimmage. Now I have to be more concerned about throwing the corner route because he's in a position, if you can, visualize it, he's in a position to push off his right foot or his left foot and cover both of these routes. Let's say now all of a sudden I got that corner. He's in the same position, but he flips his hips and now his body is parallel to the line of scrimmage. Once that happens, now I say there's no way he's going to be able to cover the corner over the top because he's got to turn his hips and flow and get there. So when we're talking about all this stuff about anticipating and reading things, there's some guys that can read position of cornerback. Okay, he's deep, he's shallow. I'm going to base, my read off of that. There's other guys that can see that body language, see a little turn of a shoulder, see a little turn of the hips, knowing, oh, he turned his hips, he's done. He cannot cover this because he turned his hips in a certain way. And so those are the levels, that go into playing quarterback. And you talk about anticipation. Can you teach it? How well can you do it? Do some guys do it better than others? Then the next part is guys reading things. Can they get their eyes in the right spot? How quickly can they get there? Can they see the safety rotation? And then beyond that, once they get there, can they see the body of a corner to know what he can and cannot physically do based on what his body looks like? That's a whole nother element to playing this game. And so
this is gold, Kurt.
Kurt, I just want to let you know that hosting a radio show is complicated too. Okay,
I am sure that it is.
A lot of factors.
I am sure that it is.
A lot of ins, a lot of outs.
That's what goes into this on a weekly basis for these guys. And then all that stuff I just said, you get 3.5 seconds, right? You get 3.5 seconds to see all of that and be on time. And it's what makes this position so beautiful is there's so much nuance.
Yeah, we're not on time.
No, there's a 270-pound man about to tackle me if I don't go to break. It's just like playing quarterback.
Great stuff. Great stuff, Kurt. Trent Dilfer was right about you.
Yeah, he said the only person better at doing this was you. And now he won't answer our calls, though, so tell him to call us back. All right, see you, Kurt.
Well, it's always good to talk to you guys. I hope it's never too much. I don't want to speak over everybody's head, but I just like to show the layers and what goes into this unbelievable position.
Yeah, it's incredible
stuff. Great stuff.
Thank you, Kurt.